Good morning and a very warm welcome. You are watching Janata Television and this is English Bulletin with me, Yutsab Bhadrai. The top stories first. Death toll from coronavirus rises to 477, over 19,000 active cases reported across the valley. MPs expressed concern regarding condition of migrant workers, demand the government not to send Nepali women as a domestic help in current crisis. Army Chief Purnachandra Thapa in self-quarantine takes precaution after his kitchen staff infected with COVID-19. Clashes between Romania and Azerbaijan kill at least 16. The latest fighting threatens regional stability. And Rajasthan Royals beat Kings 11 Punjab to climb to second place in IPL table. Royal challenges Bangalore to face Mumbai today. And now the news in detail. The death toll from coronavirus has climbed to 447 following the confirmation of 10 new deaths from the disease across the country. According to the Health Ministry, 5 of the deceased were from Kathmandu Valley, while the others were from different parts of the country. During a regular press briefing yesterday, the ministry informed that the latest victims were from Kathmandu, Bhaktapur, Lalitpur, Acham, Bara, Rupandehi and Bardia. 7 out of the 10 victims were above 50 years. The other 3 were aged at 34, 40, 42, informed spokesperson of Health Ministry Dr. Jageshwar Gautam. Meanwhile, the number of people infected with coronavirus in Nepal has climbed to 73,394. The government yesterday confirmed 1,573 new cases of coronavirus in the country. Among them, 633 cases were reported in Kathmandu alone, followed by 104 in Lalitpur and 72 in Bhaktapur. So far, 53,898 coronavirus patients have been discharged from hospitals after full recovery. The number of active cases in the country currently is 19,019. MPs have demanded transparency in the condition of workers sent as domestic helpers in Gulf nations. Passports of such workers should remain with the respective workers, MPs have reiterated. Similarly, MPs have also suggested a prohibition on sending women as domestic helpers in the Gulf nation until coronavirus comes under control. In an interaction held at Business and Commerce and Labour and Consumer Committee, MPs stated that foreign employment workers in the Gulf nations are always exposed to risks. MPs have stressed on transparency of work and service and remuneration allotted to such workers, stating that Diplomatic Commission and most of the family members are also unaware about the whereabouts of many foreign employment labourers. MP Pokhrel called for transparency in foreign employment sector. MP Prakash Rasaili stressed on increasing the manpower in respective Nepali embassies and consulates in Gulf nations to be able to help and rescue troubled citizens. MPs have unanimously voiced for registering the labourer's phone number in the respective embassy. The labour agreement should necessarily mention that workers will be allowed to keep their passport with themselves, MPs further demanded. The Parliamentary Committee has decided to submit a report to the government regarding the same after making some amendments. Community schools in Siraha have resumed classes from yesterday amidst coronavirus pandemic. All public schools of Mirchaya, Gol Bazar and Lakshmipur Patari areas have reopened by adopting all precautionary measures. The local municipalities informed that they decided to reopen schools by adopting safety protocols under the existing laws. Chief of Army Staff General Purnachandra Thapa has quarantined himself after one of his kitchen staff tested positive for coronavirus. Issuing a statement yesterday, the Directorate of Public Relations of the Nepalese Army confirmed that the army chief had quarantined himself effective from September 27 by adhering to all safety protocols set by the government. The statement said that one of his kitchen staff of Army Chief Thapa tested positive for COVID-19 on September 26. Sources said that Army Chief decided to self-quarantine himself as a precautionary measure. It has been learned that Army Chief Thapa will undergo PCR test within a few days. Health experts say it takes at least a week after infection for the test results to come positive. This is Janata Bulletin. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back after the break. We continue with other national news. Nepal observed the World Tourism Day yesterday with the slogan Tourism and Rural Development. The World Tourism Day was marked across the globe with limited programs due to coronavirus pandemic this year. The government has decided to form a task force in collaboration with the private sector to revitalize the tourism industry that has been badly affected by the pandemic. Minister for Culture, Tourism and Civil Aviation Yogesh Bhattrai said during a program that the government expects the tourism industry to bounce back as the authorities have already lifted restrictions on air service, hotels and restaurants, trekking and expeditions among other activities. Minister Bhattrai said that the Tourism Ministry is currently discussing with the Home Ministry and the Department of Immigration for issuing of on-arrival visas for tourists who have been facing problems to obtain visa. The government authorities claimed that the tourism sector contributed 6.7% to the gross domestic product of Nepal and created employment opportunities for over 1 million people. The World Tourism Day is celebrated every year on September 27 to mark the establishment of the United Nations World Tourism Organization. The government has appointed Dr. Deepak Bhandari as the Executive Director of Nepal Agriculture Research Council (NARC). The meeting of the cabinet held at Prime Minister's official residence in Baluwatar yesterday decided to appoint Dr. Bhandari as the Executive Director of NARC. Similarly, the meeting has also delegated Dr. Anjana Shakya, Ambassador to Israel, the rights to sign all bilateral agreements between Nepal and Israel. According to sources, although cabinet reshuffling was also to be addressed by yesterday's meeting, the agenda has been postponed for the next meeting. Earlier yesterday, NCP chairman duo KP Sharma Oli and Pushpa Kamal Dahal had also met for separate discussions. And now the news from economic front. Nepal Rashtra Bank has issued development bonds of Rs 20 billion. The maturity period of the bond is 9 years. The bond is open for the public as well as banks and financial institutes, non-banking organizations, insurance companies and other organizations. Those who purchase the bond can take loan from banks by keeping it as collateral. The central bank informed that it will provide interest on the bond every 6 months, while the beneficiaries are subject to pay tax on the interest they earn. 85% of the bond will be sold through competitive bidding, informed the central bank. The development bond can be traded in the secondary market of a stock exchange as well. Time for a short break here at Janata Bulletin. Stay tuned for international and sports news. Welcome back, and now the international news. At least 16 military members and several civilians were killed on Sunday in the heaviest clashes between Armenia and Azerbaijan since 2016, Reuters reported. The latest clashes have reignited concern about stability in the South Caucasus, a corridor for pipelines carrying oil and gas to world markets. The news agency further stated, The two countries were part of a former Soviet republic and had fought a war in the 1990s. The latest flare-up was over Nagorno-Karabakh region, which is inside Azerbaijan but is run by ethnic Armenians. Nagorno-Karabakh said 16 of its servicemen had been killed and more than 100 wounded after Azerbaijan launched an air and artillery attack early on Sunday. Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh declared martial law and mobilized the male population. Azerbaijan, which also declared martial law, said its forces responded to Armenian shelling that 5 members of one family had been killed by Armenian shelling. The coronavirus that has claimed nearly 1 million lives has underscored the failures of the United Nations to bring countries together to defeat it, AP reported. According to the news agency, this has prompted renewed calls to reform the world body so that it can meet challenges far different and more daunting than those it faced at its birth. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said last week, "The pandemic is a clear test of international cooperation, a test we have essentially failed. There is a disconnect between leadership and power," he said, warning that in the 21st century's interconnected world, solidarity is self-interest, and if we fail to grasp the fact, everyone loses. The first ever virtual meeting of world leaders at the General Assembly highlighted increasing tensions among major powers. It also reflected the growing inequality between rich and poor countries and the escalating difficulty of getting the United Nations 193 member nations to agree on a major issue. Born out of the ashes of the World War II with 50 members, the United Nations has since expanded dramatically. 75 years after its founding, nations signed the UN Charter in San Francisco and vowed to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war. Conflicts continue to rage around a world beheaded by inequality, hunger, and a massive climate crisis. You are watching Janata Bulletin, and now the latest from the world of sports. Rajasthan Royals registered their second win of the IPL 2020 season as they beat Kings 11 Punjab in a record chase. Rajasthan Royals defeated Kings 11 Punjab by 4 wickets to register what is highest successful run chase in the IPL history. Rajasthan Royals chased Kings 11 Punjab's 223 for 2, which is the highest successful chase in IPL. Some sensational 6 hitting from Rajasthan Royals and Kings 11 Punjab contributed to the highest successful chase in the history of Indian Premier League as Rajasthan Royal decapitated Kings 11 Punjab as 223 for 2, courtesy a heel turn by Rahul Tewatia. Tewatia, 51 of 31 balls, hit 5 sixes in an over after Sanju Samson, 85 of 42, and Steve Smith, 50 of 27, hit sparkling 50s as Rajasthan Royals chased down the highest ever total of IPL to beat Kings 11 Punjab by 4 wickets in Sharjah Stadium, Hindustan Times reported. Today, Virat Kohli's Royal Challenger Bangalore will face Mumbai Indian at Dubai International Stadium at 19:45 Nepali time. We are at the end of Janata Bulletin and the headlines once again. A death toll from coronavirus rises to 477. Over 19,000 active cases are reported across the country. MPs express concern regarding condition of migrant workers, demand government not to send Nepali women as the domestic help amid current crisis. Army Chief Purna Chandra Thapa in self-quarantine takes precautions after his kitchen staff infected with COVID-19. Clashes between Armenia and Azerbaijan kill at least 16. The latest fighting threatens regional stability. And the Rajasthan Royals beat Kings 11 Punjab to climb to second place in IPL table. Royal challenges Bangalore to face Mumbai today. And that's all from the English News Desk for today. You can follow Janata Television and our programs on various social media platforms, including on our website at janatasamachar.com. Keep watching Janata Television. Namaste.